The city was alive with the hum of engines and the faint smell of gasoline from a row of parked motorcycles. The Hells Angels chapter had gathered in the lot behind their usual hangout, engines idling and leather jackets gleaming in the afternoon sunlight. The day had been ordinary, until a small, trembling voice cut through the roar of engines. "Look under your bikes." All heads turned. A little girl, barely 8, her hair damp from a light drizzle, stood clutching a small, frayed backpack. Her wide eyes were fixed on the bikers, filled with fear and urgency. She looked fragile against the towering men in leather, yet something in her voice demanded attention. Hawk, the chapter leader, crouched slightly, speaking calmly. "Hey, slow down, kid. What's under our bikes?" The girl's lips quivered. I saw it. They were hiding something. Something bad. You need to see it, please." The bikers exchanged wary glances. The lot, usually a place of brotherhood and casual camaraderie, now felt charged with tension. Every member instinctively moved closer to their Harleys, hands brushing the chrome, engines still humming but alert, ready. Jace, silent and imposing, knelt next to Hawk. "Show us. Now." The girl nodded, swallowing her fear, and pointed at the shadows beneath the gleaming motorcycles. The bikers dropped slowly to their knees, peering into the darkness. At first, there was nothing but rain-speckled pavement, then a glint of metal, a small, dark bundle, partially hidden and eerily still. Hawk reached carefully toward it, adrenaline and dread coiling in his chest. As he lifted the bundle into the light, the bikers collectively froze. Inside was a tangle of wires, a ticking device, and signs that someone had been preparing something dangerous, something that could have brought chaos to the city in minutes. The little girl's voice trembled. I saw someone put it here last night. I didn't want anyone to get hurt." Ryder's eyes widened. This could have blown up the whole block," he whispered, the gravity of the discovery sinking in. The chapter stood, silent, processing the scale of the danger they had narrowly avoided. For a moment, the roar of engines, the chatter, even the city itself, seemed to pause, as if holding its breath. Then, Hawk looked down at the little girl, awe and gratitude mixing in his gaze. "You saved lives today," he said quietly. "Not because you're strong or loud, but because you had the courage to speak up. That's bravery." The bikers formed a protective circle around her, the weight of moral responsibility settling on every shoulder. It wasn't just about stopping a threat anymore. It was about shielding the innocent, teaching trust, and showing that courage could arrive in the smallest of forms. The girl shivered, and Hawk placed a hand lightly on her shoulder. "Stay close. We're going to make sure this never hurts anyone. Not on our watch." The shadow of danger lingered beneath the bikes, but now, thanks to the courage of a child and the vigilance of the Hells Angels, it had been exposed. The chapter knew one thing for certain: this small voice had changed everything. The lot had quieted, save for the soft hum of idling engines, the chrome of the Harleys reflecting the tension in the air. Hawk examined the device more closely, his experienced hands moving carefully over the wires and mechanism, while Ryder and Jace scanned the surrounding area for any other signs of danger. Micah, yes, the little girl had introduced herself as Micah, though her name seemed impossibly delicate for someone carrying so much courage, stood nearby, clutching her small backpack, eyes wide but steady. "This wasn't just a prank," Hawk muttered, his voice low, heavy with understanding. "Someone planned to hurt people, maybe a lot of people." Ryder knelt beside the girl, trying to calm her trembling hands. "How did you find it?" he asked gently. "Did you see someone put it here?" Micah nodded, her voice barely a whisper. I was walking by. I saw a man crouched here last night. I hid behind the dumpsters. I thought if I told someone, they wouldn't believe me." Hawk's eyes softened. "You believed anyway. That's the important part." He rose and gestured to the rest of the chapter. "Listen up. We handle this carefully. Nobody touches anything else until we know the full scope. Ryder, Jace, check the nearby alleys. The rest of us, keep Micah safe." The bikers fanned out, scanning each shadowed corner of the lot, the side streets, and the spaces between parked cars. Their presence transformed the quiet city block into a fortress, tense, watchful, and almost sacred in its protective purpose. Micah stayed close to Hawk, her small hand brushing against his arm every so often. "Will they come back?" she asked, voice tight with fear. Hawk crouched, eyes level with hers. "Not if we stay alert. Courage isn't just about being brave, it's about having people who know what to do when danger comes. You've already been brave. Now we'll make sure you're safe." Minutes stretched into tension-filled observation as the bikers methodically inspected the lot and surrounding alleys. Jace's sharp eyes caught the faintest footprint in the mud, leading toward the edge of a nearby street. Hawk and Ryder exchanged a glance. This was a trail, subtle but real, pointing to someone who had planted the device and escaped unnoticed. "We follow it," Hawk said. "Quietly. Carefully. But we don't confront unless we have the upper hand. Safety first. Micah stays protected." The girl's small nod reflected a mixture of trust and growing understanding. She had come with fear, but now she was learning firsthand the meaning of loyalty and protection. Around her, the chapter operated with precision, each movement, glance, and subtle command reinforcing the moral weight they carried. As they followed the trail, Hawk's voice cut softly through the quiet. "Micah, stay behind me, close to Ryder. Remember what I said, courage isn't about rushing in recklessly. It's about watching, understanding, and acting when the time is right." The trail led them to a deserted alley behind a shuttered shop. There, partially hidden beneath a taupe, was another device, smaller but equally menacing. And beside it, a shadow moved, someone trying to return and finish the job. Hawk signaled the chapter. Engines idled quietly but purposefully. The bikers closed in, forming an unbreakable perimeter, ready to intercept but not escalate unnecessarily. The man froze as they appeared, his plan foiled, his escape cut off by 50 unwavering figures. Micah's breath hitched. They're not going to let him hurt anyone, right? Ryder placed a steady hand on her shoulder. "Exactly. You don't have to worry. Protection isn't just words. It's action, and that's what we do." The man, realizing the futility, dropped to his knees, hands raised. The bikers disarmed him efficiently, dismantling the device and securing the area. The danger was neutralized, and the city block, once vulnerable, now felt impossibly safer. Hawk turned to Micah, voice warm. "See that? Courage paired with action saves lives. You spoke up. We listened. And together, we stopped harm before it could happen. That's how protection works." Micah's eyes glistened. For the first time, she understood that courage wasn't only about speaking, it was about trust, vigilance, and the unwavering commitment of people willing to act on your behalf. The bikers gathered around her, silent but present. They hadn't just protected her, they had shown what loyalty, moral courage, and collective strength could accomplish. And the city, unaware of the calamity narrowly avoided, continued on, but the lesson of bravery, protection, and moral responsibility had been etched into the day. The sun climbed higher, casting a warm glow over the city streets, but the tension from the morning lingered in Micah's chest. Hawk guided her to a quieter corner of the lot, near a row of polished Harleys, their engines still murmuring with life. The little girl's small hands fidgeted nervously in her backpack strap, and Hawk crouched to meet her eyes. "You did the right thing today," he said gently. "Speaking up isn't easy. Most people would have walked past, pretending not to see. But you acted. That's courage." Micah blinked, absorbing the weight of his words. I was scared. I didn't know if anyone would listen." Ryder stepped forward, leaning casually on his bike but keeping an alert gaze on the surrounding streets. Sometimes, the hardest part of courage is trusting that someone will actually respond. You took that step. That's more than bravery, it's wisdom. Micah nodded slowly, beginning to understand. The biker's presence wasn't just protection, it was a lesson in trust, in moral strength, and in the unseen responsibilities of those who wield power responsibly. Hawk gestured to the lot. Danger doesn't always announce itself. It hides beneath the obvious. That's why vigilance matters. Loyalty, protection, courage, they all matter because the world doesn't always play fair. You've just learned how important it is to have people who care enough to act. The girl glanced at the Harleys, their chrome reflecting sunlight in 1,000 tiny sparks. She noticed the subtle scars on the leather, the worn grips of handlebars, and the small imperfections that told a story of hard rides, battles faced, and lives dedicated to more than self-interest. They've been through a lot, haven't they? She whispered. Hawk's lips curved slightly. Every scar has a story. Every mark on a jacket, every wrinkle on a face, every streak of grey in hair. It's all proof that courage, loyalty, and protection aren't easy. But that's exactly why they matter. And that's why we're here for you. As the girl absorbed the lesson, a faint noise from the alley caught Jace's attention. He motioned silently, and the chapter members instinctively fanned out, forming a protective perimeter around Micah. A stray cat darted across the alley, its claws scraping lightly against the pavement. The girl's eyes widened, then she giggled softly, realizing how her fear had heightened every sound. Hawk chuckled, a deep, comforting sound. Fear is natural, he said. But what separates those who survive from those who thrive is knowing when to act and when to trust others to act with you. Today, you've seen both. The bikers remained vigilant, scanning the surrounding streets, showing Micah that protection wasn't passive. It was constant, proactive, and grounded in loyalty. Each movement, each glance, each subtle shift reinforced the lesson. Courage, moral strength, and vigilance are inseparable when lives are at stake. Ryder leaned closer to her, voice soft. Remember, it's not weakness to ask for help. It's strength. Courage is amplified when people work together, when loyalty isn't just a word, but action. Micah looked at the group, realizing for the first time the depth of what she had witnessed. These were not just bikers, they were guardians, mentors, and a living embodiment of moral courage. They had faced danger, protected the innocent, and acted decisively without hesitation. Hawk stood, placing a steady hand on her shoulder. The world can be frightening. But now you know, you can trust in those willing to stand for what's right. And even more, you can be part of that circle, even in small ways, by speaking up, by observing, and by trusting the right people. The little girl's eyes sparkled, a mix of relief and understanding washing over her. She had survived the fear, witnessed courage, and learned the value of loyalty. For the first time, she felt not only safe but empowered, carrying a lesson that would shape her choices far beyond today. As the chapter prepared to continue their patrol, the lot transformed from a place of mere engines and leather into a living classroom of courage, vigilance, and unspoken moral responsibility. And Micah, small but undeniably brave, had become a part of it, a witness, a learner, and someone who would carry the lesson of trust and protection with her for the rest of her life. The city's afternoon buzz lingered in the air, but the lot felt insulated, almost sacred. Micah stayed close to Hawk, still absorbing the morning's lessons, her small fingers brushing the leather of his jacket for reassurance. The bikers moved with precision, scanning alleys, trash bins, and hidden corners, determined to uncover who had left the deadly devices beneath their bikes. Hawk motioned to Ryder and Jace. Split up. Quietly. Check every street, every doorway. Micah stays here, safe, until we know the threat is neutralized. The chapter members melted into the urban landscape like shadows, eyes sharp, movements silent yet deliberate. Micah watched them, all mingling with trust, realizing for the first time that protection wasn't just a moment, it was a constant commitment. Minutes later, Kane's voice crackled softly over a handheld radio. Found something. Alley between 5th and Pine. Signs of tampering, footprints leading north. Hawk's jaw tightened. We move. Careful. This guy's reckless, but he's not untouchable. Micah's small voice called out, hesitant. Are you sure he won't see us? Hawk crouched, eyes level with hers. We're careful. And that's part of protection. It's not just strength. It's foresight, patience, and knowing when to act. You'll see. The bikers converged on the alley, a formation both protective and intimidating. Shadows shifted as they approached a dumpster, where a man crouched, hastily trying to hide another device. He froze as the chapter encircled him, hands raised in surrender, realizing escape was impossible. Hawk stepped forward, voice calm but firm. "We know what you're doing. You put lives at risk. Now it stops. You answer to us, and the law, but no one gets hurt today because we acted first." The man's eyes darted nervously. I didn't mean. Jace's tone was quiet but cutting. Intent doesn't erase danger. You chose recklessness. And now you face consequences. But notice this, you're not fighting alone. You've got people to answer to, and we're part of that chain. We protect the innocent. That's what makes us dangerous to people like you. Micah watched from a safe distance, her chest rising with awe and understanding. The bikers had neutralized the immediate threat, but more importantly, they had demonstrated unwavering loyalty, moral courage, and the ability to act decisively when lives were at stake. Hawk turned to the girl, voice soft but proud. "See that, Micah? Courage and protection don't just save you, they set an example. Loyalty isn't a word, it's action. And action has consequences that ripple outwards." Micah nodded, a small but determined expression forming. I understand. It's not just about being brave for yourself, it's about helping others too. Ryder added quietly, "Exactly. And that's why you're safe. You're part of our circle now, even in small ways, because your courage sparked action. You warned us. That's bravery, Micah. Never forget it." As the man was taken into custody by the authorities who had arrived quietly in response to a prearranged signal from Hawk, the chapter regrouped. Their presence remained protective, vigilant, yet composed. The threat had been contained, the city had been spared, and the little girl had witnessed firsthand the power of moral strength in action. Micah's small hand brushed Hawk's arm again. "Thank you, for protecting me." Hawk smiled, placing a steady hand on her shoulder. "No, kid. You protected yourself first, by speaking up. We just made sure the world didn't punish your courage. Remember that, protection starts with trust, action, and loyalty." As the chapter mounted their Harleys and engines rumbled in harmony, the city seemed less intimidating, less chaotic. Shadows no longer held unseen threats, and the girl, once small and fearful, now carried within her a seed of courage and the knowledge that loyalty and moral courage could shield even the most vulnerable. The city's streets had calmed, but the lesson of the morning lingered like an unshakable pulse. Micah followed Hawk and Ryder through a quiet side street, her small shoes clicking against the pavement, the oversized leather jacket still enveloping her like a protective shield. Every glance at the bikers reminded her that courage could take many forms, speaking up, trusting others, and acting with moral strength. Hawk knelt beside her, scanning the shadows. "Micah, today wasn't just about danger. It's about understanding the power of trust. Courage isn't about doing everything yourself, it's about knowing when to let others stand with you." The girl nodded, her voice soft. I think I get it. It's scary, but I don't feel alone anymore." Ryder smiled, adjusting his helmet strap. "Exactly. Trust is the bridge between fear and action. You spoke up. We listened. And together, we stopped something terrible before it could happen. That's teamwork, that's loyalty, and that's protection." They stopped at a small community park, the rusted swing sets and cracked pavement a stark contrast to the motorcycles parked in the lot behind them. Hawk gestured to the swings. "Let's sit for a minute. Courage is easier to understand when you reflect on it. Think about how you acted today. Your instincts saved lives. That's power. And power comes with responsibility." Micah's small hands fidgeted in her jacket pockets. "I was scared. I didn't know if anyone would believe me. But you listened." Hawk nodded. "And that's the first lesson. Moral strength is listening, acting, and standing for the vulnerable. You proved today that courage isn't about being the biggest or strongest. It's about doing the right thing when it matters most. The chapter had parked nearby, each member maintaining a quiet watch. Their presence alone was a lesson in loyalty. The invisible shield they cast over Micah demonstrated that protection was more than physical strength, it was moral courage made manifest. Ryder crouched beside the girl. Micah, the streets, the city, they can be harsh. But what you experience today shows that courage multiplies when people act together. Loyalty isn't just about family or friends. It's about standing up for anyone who can't stand up for themselves. Micah's eyes sparkled with understanding. So, by warning you, I helped protect people. That's brave. Hawk smiled. Yes. That's exactly brave. You didn't have to act alone. You asked for help, and that's what real courage looks like. Strength is amplified by trust and loyalty. As the afternoon light shifted, painting the city in golden hues, Micah realized the enormity of what she had witnessed. The bikers' actions weren't just about stopping a threat, they were a living example of moral responsibility. Every decision, every protective stance, and every silent watch over her taught lessons that no words could fully convey. The chapter mounted their Harleys again, engines rumbling in synchronized harmony, and Hawk glanced at Micah. Remember this day. Remember how speaking up, trusting the right people, and standing for what's right changed everything. That's courage, and that's a lesson you'll carry forever. Micah's small smile grew, a mix of awe and newfound strength. For the first time, she didn't feel small or powerless. She had witnessed courage, loyalty, and protection in action, and she knew that moral strength could shape even the most frightening streets into spaces of hope. The streets had taken on a tense quiet, the normal city sounds dulled as if the day itself held its breath. Hawk and the chapter had traced the source of the threat farther than anyone had anticipated. Through narrow alleyways, past abandoned lots, and beneath the shadows of towering buildings. Every step reinforced the lesson Micah had begun to understand. Danger is real, but courage, loyalty, and moral action can neutralize it. Micah stayed close to Ryder, gripping his leather-clad arm for reassurance. Her heart raced with anticipation and lingering fear, but beneath that, a growing confidence rooted in trust and witnessed bravery. Hawk motioned silently, signaling the chapter to fan out. Stay sharp. This is the last stretch. Eyes open, minimal noise. If he's here, he won't get a second chance. The group moved with silent precision, every biker a pillar of protection, every glance a command of vigilance. The sun reflected off metal, illuminating small details, a loose wire, a footprint, a discarded can, that told a story only practiced eyes could read. And then, in a shadowed doorway at the far end of the alley, movement. A man crouched, hastily trying to reassemble another device. His eyes widened as he realized he had walked straight into the chapter's protective perimeter. Hawk stepped forward, voice calm but carrying the weight of authority. It's over. No one gets hurt today. You made a choice to put lives at risk. Now you face consequences. The man froze, realizing escape was impossible. Micah, standing behind Hawk, felt the rush of fear dissolve into awe. The bikers weren't just strong, they were unyielding in moral courage, their actions guided by protection and loyalty rather than anger or vengeance. Ryder crouched beside the girl. See that, Micah? Courage isn't always about fighting. It's about acting when it counts, protecting the vulnerable, and ensuring justice. Hawk gestured to the others. Jace and Kane moved in smoothly, disarming the man and dismantling the device. Every motion was deliberate, precise, a lesson in action paired with moral clarity. The man's voice quavered. I didn't think. Hawk shook his head. Intent doesn't erase danger. But you've seen what accountability looks like, calm, controlled, and focused on the people at risk. That's how we operate. Micah's small voice piped up. You protected everyone. Not just me. Hawk placed a steady hand on her shoulder. Exactly. Protection isn't selfish. It's about loyalty, courage, and moral strength. And today, you witnessed it firsthand. The bikers escorted the man to the authorities, ensuring he could do no further harm. Every member of the chapter returned to their motorcycles, engines rumbling with quiet authority, a living reminder that vigilance paired with moral courage could secure even the most chaotic streets. Micah looked up at the chapter, her awe transformed into understanding. She realized that loyalty and courage weren't abstract, they were action. She had been part of the journey, part of the lesson, and part of the protection that ensured the city remained safe, at least for today. Hawk knelt beside her one last time. Remember, Micah, this city can be harsh. But courage, trust, and loyalty, these are your shields. You've seen them today, in action. And one day, you'll carry them forward in your own way. The sun dipped toward the horizon, casting long shadows but illuminating a new reality for the little girl. The world was dangerous, yes, but courage, loyalty, and moral strength were stronger than fear. She had witnessed it, learned it, and would never forget it. The city streets settled into a quiet rhythm, the hum of traffic a distant echo compared to the lessons of the day. Micah stood near the lot, still wearing the oversized jacket that had once been a symbol of borrowed protection, now a tangible reminder of courage, trust, and loyalty. The chapter gathered nearby, engines idling, eyes watchful yet soft with pride. Hawk approached, kneeling to meet the girl's gaze. Micah, today wasn't just about stopping danger. It was about teaching you what real courage looks like, acting when it matters, trusting the right people, and understanding that protection is more than muscle, it's moral strength in action. The little girl nodded, a small, confident smile forming. I understand now. It's not just about being brave alone. It's about speaking up and letting the right people help. Ryder placed a hand gently on her shoulder. Exactly. Courage grows when it's shared. Loyalty isn't a word, it's action. And today, you saw both in full force. You are part of that circle now, even if in a small way. That's powerful. Hawk glanced at the city around them, then back at Micah. The streets may still hold danger, but you've seen that fear can be met with preparation, vigilance, and people willing to act for what's right. That's the essence of protection, of moral courage, and of family chosen through trust. The chapter mounted their Harleys, engines rumbling like a heartbeat of loyalty and justice. Micah watched, awe and understanding filling her small chest. She had learned that bravery is not just facing the world, it's standing up, speaking out, and trusting those who are willing to stand with you. The sun's fading light reflected off the chrome and leather, casting a golden glow over the lot. Micah hugged the jacket tightly, feeling a warmth that went beyond fabric, a warmth of safety, belonging, and newfound courage. She knew she would never forget the lessons of the day, that loyalty, trust, and moral strength could turn fear into hope, even in the darkest corners. Courage is more than facing danger. It's speaking up and trusting the right people to act with moral strength. Protection is not only physical, it is loyalty, vigilance, and standing for the vulnerable. Small acts of bravery can ripple into life-changing outcomes, saving lives before chaos takes hold. Family is often chosen through trust, courage, and shared responsibility, not just blood. True bravery inspires others, transforming fear into hope through unwavering action. When moral strength meets loyalty and courage, even the most vulnerable find safety, empowerment, and belonging.